Good evening. 4 years ago, Boris Johnson pledged to end rough sleeping in London. He said it was a scandal that people still lived on the capital streets, and he said he would end it by 2012. He hasn't. Figures today show that, in fact, rough sleeping has doubled since he became mayor. There are now more than 6,000 people bedding down on London streets every year. Our political correspondent Cole Mercer has the details.
Just off the Strand in the heart of the capital city this morning, this is a sight that's becoming more common. Rough sleeping in London is on the rise for new arrivals and those who are more entrenched.
There is a lot more. Yeah, definite. Yeah, I can't even go to a handout, yeah, and get some clean clothes and that, because I have a shower every day. There's day centres we can go to, yeah, but I have to walk miles for that.
This man's been sleeping rough for a fortnight, one of the many who come to London to leave problems at home behind.
My name's Shane. I just wanted to settle down, really, to be like anyone else. My girlfriend, she died Easter Sunday 2010.
Shane Harris was on the streets until last January. He's now being helped back on his feet by a homeless charity and has made this video of his story. Today, he took us back to his days sleeping rough.
It's not too bad during the day, but at night time, you know, you're trying to get your head down, you've got lots of people walking past you. I've had people kick me, I've had people urinate on me, I've had people start messing around with petrol. You know, so it goes from like seemingly harmless stuff almost right the way up to really life-threatening things, you know, and it is a very scary time. I first came to St Mungo's in January 2012, and thank God they offered me a room. You feel isolated, alone, but you feel embarrassed as well, you know, because like you brought up like, you know, only tramps sleep that way, you know what I mean, and it made me realise at the end of the day it can happen to anyone at any time.
Figures out today show the scale of London's rough sleeping problem, despite this commitment from Boris Johnson 4 years ago. Then the mayor said it's scandalous that in 21st century London people have to resort to sleeping on the streets. Our commitment, he said, is more important than ever, and we now have the right people gathered around one table to honour and achieve it. In fact, that commitment has not been honoured or achieved. When he took over as mayor, there were 3,000 rough sleepers in London. The numbers have been on the rise ever since. There are now 6,400 rough sleepers in the capital.
Not only has he failed to meet that target, rough sleeping has increased every single year that he has been mayor. And this is yet another one of those grandiose promises that Boris makes, which he fails to deliver on.
What you've seen over the last few years is leadership for the very first time on rough sleeping in the capital. You see real coordination across central London, in particular where you see at the highest rate of rough sleeping. What we've always said is that people shouldn't spend a second night sleeping rough. If they end up on the street, and some people will have that moment of crisis, which does mean that they end up on the street, they shouldn't stay on the street, they shouldn't get entrenched on the street.
The number of people spending more than one night on the streets has gone down, but the numbers arriving continue to rise, a place Shane once found himself. Not anymore.
Yeah, my CV's starting to fill up now and it's starting to look a little bit better, so I'm starting to apply for a few jobs here and there now. So yeah, hopefully get a job out of it and see what happens from there, innit?
Well, of all of London's rough sleepers, 3% are Roma gypsies. And although relatively small in number, some residents in Marylebone say their lives are being made miserable by a group of them sleeping rough on the streets, including next to a local primary school. Our Home Affairs correspondent Guy Smith reports.
Fast asleep in an alleyway in Marylebone. These photos sent to us by residents unhappy by what they face most mornings on their way to work. They claim they've had to put up with antisocial behaviour for 18 months. So today we paid the area a visit, but it appeared they'd moved on. Until we looked round the corner.
The only people rough sleeping in our area are Roma, predominantly with Romanian nationality.
It looks like a couple of people here.
Yeah, absolutely. A prime example. This is the fire exit for a church. Often we'll find a situation where people are rough sleeping. Effectively, the ward is used as a dormitory, and they then go away during the daytime and even up into late at night to the Edgware Road, to Marble Arch and places like that to commit various types of criminality, whether it's begging, theft of all sorts, pickpocketing, even prostitution.
Sheila Mosman has lived here for more than 60 years. She says one day she confronted a group camping outside her flat.
The guy stood up and I said, "Are you from Romania?" He said, "No, I'm from Africa." I said, "No, you're not. That's a lie." I said, "You're Romanian." And this little voice stood up and said, "Why, have you got a problem with Romania?" I said, "No, I haven't got a problem with Romania, but I've got a problem with you sleeping on my doorstep. Now get out of it."
The people who live here, they say that you are causing problems. What do you say?
No, nothing problem. The people here, if you give respect, you give it to respect back.
Hello, my love. Police, how are you? You're right. 2 new faces. Who's at the back?
Simon Reason is the police sergeant in charge of this part of Marylebone. His team spends 80% of their time now dealing with Roma gypsies.
This is an offence, obstruction is an offence, whereas rough sleeping isn't.
And what sort of antisocial behaviour are they causing?
Well, aside from perhaps some people would say it might be antisocial, just the actual image that you've got. We've got things like urination, defecation in the street, and people's driveways, doorways and so on, ripping open of rubbish bags to try and find food.
But the problem is not just here. Nearby, this CCTV shows a primary school caretaker warning Roma gypsies if they don't move on, he'll hose them down. They get the message this time.
Over the last few weeks, they have returned in droves. We sometimes get as many as 8 lying just around there over the night, and they use this corner as their personal toilets there. And it's particularly unpleasant when children are coming in.
The police have applied for more than 40 ASBOs to ban them from Westminster. The council has spent hundreds of thousands of pounds to clean the streets and even bus them back to Romania. Local residents have applied to install a gate to stop them getting into their street, but are unlikely to win planning permission. Nothing seems to be working.
They say you should go to Romania and film there to see the poverty they live in, and they're starving, they have children, they've got no food to provide, they don't find jobs because they discriminated back in Romania as well.
Last year, almost 500 people were arrested across London for begging. Half of them were Romanian nationals. But in the same period, there were nearly 800 arrests for pickpocketing. A third were Romanian.
Once we move somebody on, or once we get rid of one set, another set come in. So until we can have proper border control and prevent these people coming into the UK, I can't see how else it's going to be resolved.
You urinated in the street just now while I was talking to you.
For Sergeant Reason, it's a daily battle.
With regard to that, my love, you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention now something you left before.
For many residents, the law is not tough enough, and not everyone is happy. Guy Smith, BBC London News.
Our political correspondent Cole Mercer is with me now. And Cole, this is an ongoing problem in London, rough sleeping, but a difficult one for politicians to solve.
Yeah, and I think as Boris Johnson is finding out, that promise he made 4 years ago now looking even harder to meet. So why, you may ask? Well, one of the housing charities I was speaking today said what we have is the perfect storm. We're in the middle of a recession. We've had local authorities who fund some of the homeless services having their budgets cut. Benefit cuts have made it harder for some people staying in their own homes. And then we've got the issue of immigration from particularly Central Europe. Something like 20% of rough sleepers in London are from Eastern or Central Europe. So you've got all those things going on, a whole lot of different problems. But then you've also got future problems ahead. St Mungo's, who were featured in the film there, were saying today they fear there could be what they called a decade of degradation. Because there will be more problems coming when the future benefit cuts come in. What the authorities have been able to do at the moment is get people off the streets once they're there, under the Mayor's No Second Night Out programme. What they don't seem to be able to do at the moment is actually stop people coming and sleeping rough.
OK, Carl Mercer, thanks very much. Well, there's lots more to come tonight.